years of war with COVID-19 and losing the battle. New Zealand made huge economic sacrifices to successfully defeat the virus in the first attack. In the wake of the second attack, New Zealand now is slowly waking up to the fact that we're going to have ongoing attacks and can no longer afford to continue to sacrifice our economy to defeat them. Why will there be further attacks? Because New Zealand depends on the world for its fundamentals: food, technology, building products, and the list goes on and on. Therefore, to simply feed and house our population, we have to interact with the world which is infested with COVID-19. Many other countries are now also waking up to the fact that they will have to learn to live with COVID-19 and other pandemics when they arrive. New Zealand has no other choice other than to learn to live safely with COVID-19 and other pandemics. And how do we do that? We take a lesson from Taiwan. Taiwan, who borders China, has previously been battered with pandemics such as SARS and swine flu. But rather than sit back afterwards, it took actions to prepare itself for further pandemic attacks. It created the Epidemic Command Center. So when COVID-19 sprung up in Wuhan, China, Taiwan went across the border and investigated for itself, and it then immediately sprang into action. Taiwan's purpose-built Epidemic Command Center immediately took control of the situation and activated its pre-prepared plan. It instantaneously deployed smart border and track and trace technology and initiated its pre-prepared people protection systems. And as a result, Taiwan did not have to sacrifice its economy like New Zealand did, and nor did it have to lock down all its citizens like New Zealand. Taiwan's economy continued to tick over smoothly, hardly affected by the dramatics of the COVID-19 that was ravaging the world. How well, then, did Taiwan do compared to New Zealand's management of the situation? Here are the results. Now, taking into consideration, New Zealand's population is 5 million. Taiwan, it's 23.8 million. Yes, nearly 5 times that of New Zealand. The total cases in New Zealand are 1,333, while in Taiwan, they're just 486. The deaths in New Zealand, 22, while in Taiwan, only 7. Remembering they have 5 times our population. The active cases in New Zealand are 122, while in Taiwan they are 29. The New Zealand government should take a leaf out of Taiwan's book and become more smarter at protecting its borders and most vulnerable citizens. If the New Zealand government had proactively created a pandemic protection institute like Taiwan and empowered it to manage pandemics, New Zealand would have been protected against COVID-19 and our economy undamaged. But also the government would have been able to get on with governing the country while overseeing the pandemic situation rather than trying to manage its every aspect. So what can small business learn from our government's mistakes? It can learn not to sit back and self-congratulate itself for surviving the first attack, but instead prepare itself for the next pandemic as it hits our shores. Businesses need to be proactive like Taiwan. Many businesses, unfortunately, are waiting for government to save them from ruin. It's not going to happen. Why? Because this government focuses on employees, other things, rather than business. Let me demonstrate. When the pandemic arrived, our government immediately increased the minimum wage. And now it's planning to double the sick leave. The wage subsidy was for the benefit of employees, not businesses. Therefore, we can't sit back and wait for government to save our businesses. We have to do this ourselves. And how do we prepare for future lockdowns or pandemics? Well, let me give you a few tips. Renegotiate your employment agreements for wage arrangements during pandemics. Currently, you're required now by law to continue paying your employees as if they hadn't missed work. Well, if you introduced contractual terms into your employment agreements, then the wages can be forgiven for that period. And if you need a clause, give me a call. I also recommend you renegotiate your lease arrangements just for pandemic situation. Have discussions with your banks about pandemic overdrafts or facilities for loan payments during pandemics. Introduce workplace policies for pandemic arrangements also, and introduce into your business terms arrangements for pandemics. Also into your purchase and payment terms. It's not a problem to add pandemic arrangements into those. Introduce into your terms with suppliers arrangements for pandemics. Look, every business is different, and every business will have different requirements to manage itself for pandemics. You need to be proactive and you need to take action now. Don't wait for the next virus attack before taking action. Take your action today.